Hi, welcome to the Courage of a Leader podcast. Today, I'm doing something special. We're taking a look back. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity to sit down with many thoughtful, honest, and deeply experienced leaders on this podcast. There are some moments from the past year that continue to stand out for you listeners. And not necessarily because they were the most polished, yet because they landed. They sparked insight. They named what so many leaders are quietly navigating right now. What you're about to hear is a curated set of some of the most meaningful leadership moments on the Courage of a Leader podcast from the past year. Conversations that generated the strongest response, the most engagement, and the most "I needed to hear that" comments. Together, these clips tell a bigger story. You'll hear a redefinition of resilience that moves beyond the exhausting cycle of just trying to keep bouncing back and instead invites us all as leaders to spring forward with learning, with energy, and with momentum. You'll be convinced, I believe, about why leadership development has to start with leading yourself. Building awareness of your triggers, your patterns, your willingness to grow before you can truly develop and lead others. You'll get grounded, real world advice on how you as a leader can support mental health while still holding clear expectations without losing credibility, trust, or results. You'll step into a conversation about courageous leadership in uncertain times and what that really looks like to balance humanity and vulnerability with confidence and direction. You'll have a powerful reframe of leadership itself, one that centers connection, belonging, and seeing the whole person at work. These are not highlights for the sake of highlights. They're signals about what leaders are hungry for, what's shifting right now, and what matters most right now. If you do want to hear more of my conversation with any of these courageous leaders, you can find links to the full guest episodes in the show notes for this episode. And as you listen to these highlights, I invite you to notice what resonates for you, what stretches you, and what feels immediately applicable in your own leadership. What actions can you immediately take to have the impact you most want to have as a leader? Show them you've got the courage of a leader. Let's get into it.
I define resilience as springing forward with learning. Springing forward with learning. One of the reasons for that, and I know it's a play on words, I'm personally not a fan of this term bounce back. It's there in all of the research around resilience. So the reason that I'm not a fan of it is what I observe is most people will face into a challenging life event. They'll face into it with whatever levels of resilience they've got. And then they'll say to themselves, right, I'll now bounce back, go back to how I was. There's a bit of a subconscious instruction to go, right, I've done that and I'll now go back. And I'm sitting there or standing there, waving my arms and going, you can't go back. We can only move forward in life. I'm really curious about, so what have you learned from your experiences? And in the learning comes the resilience building. So that's why I define it as springing forward with learning. And so resilient people, that's what they do. And that shifts them away from perpetually surviving and coping, and it shifts them towards thriving. So there's a bit of a concern as well that people feel like they are only being resilient when they're surviving and coping. But actually, true resilience, where you've actually built it and you've got a good level of it, those individuals are thriving in a full-on, crazy, volatile, complex, ambiguous world, rather than just hanging on.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about why you define it the way that you do, Russell. Because it'd be easy to just take it springing forward with learning. Yeah, that sounds great. But it's really important from a mindset perspective. There can be something
Yes.
that comes out of this not great experience that knocked us back on our heels, but we can end up in a new place on
Yeah,
our journey, on our
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and a different kind of energy to it than I got to get back up. I got to get back up. You fall, and then that feels like that
Yes.
energy is going to run out. It's
Well, it will, because that's brilliantly articulated. I shall steal that for future reference. That's all right. You know what I mean? It is about the energy levels, because I get worried as well that people only see resilience as just keeping going regardless. So how you actually behaviorally achieve springing forward with learning
yeah.
is that it's making the conscious choice, because you see the value and benefit from all of life's events, the good ones and the not so good ones, of pausing.
Okay.
Now, in the pausing includes re-energizing and reflection.
Okay.
Okay, so there's lots of R words here. There's Russell, the resilience coach. There's reflection, and there's it's just the letter R comes out an awful lot in here.
All by design, folks.
Yeah, by design. Absolutely, absolutely. Whatever life's experience has happened to us, if it's a really great experience, okay, we've used loads of energy, then we'll be nice tired.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to re-energize from nice tired. Being an unpleasant experience, you are not nice tired. You're a bit broken, you know? So you have to re-energize from that. So my rhetorical question for you is like, what's the difference for you? How do you re-energize from nice tired and not so nice tired? What are the things that you do? There might be a difference in there.
Uh-huh.
So from a leadership point of view, that's really important. And pausing includes chatting to a coach, chatting to a friend, going for a walk. Pausing is actually having a different conversation in your team meetings. That's a version of pausing as well. Practical, real world, how to be a resilient leader. It's like, so team, we have had an experience recently. Let's pause. Let's have a chat about it. Let's understand what worked really well for us in this experience about behaviorally and mindset and our levels of resilience and our adaptability and our learning, and what didn't work well for us, and how can we take those learnings forward
Yeah.
into the next experience that we have around it. So actually we could learn from this and face into the next challenge differently, or actually whether we do actually view it as a challenge
Hmm.
might change. Because if we've learned, we go, oh, this has happened to us before. Oh, we know how to deal with this. So we're not seeing it as a frightening thing. We know we can face into it. So if the negative thing in the past, we learn from it, go, oh, actually, we know what to do. We feel better about it. I'm not actually viewing it as yet another, oh my God, experience. It's like, oh, okay, right, we can do this. We can
Yeah.
face into this.
We can collectively change the perspective, the mindset on that type of work with that
Yes.
kind of acknowledgement. Look at what we learned. Look at what we're now capable of.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
seeing that all of this, the springing forward with learning can create momentum.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. The re-energizing, I think this is a really nice distinction that you were making, Russell. I called it I'm happy tired. So Genevieve, tell us at a high level, what would be the focus of our ideal leadership development journey?
Thank you. So this focus, the journey, and I love that you call it a journey because it really is a journey. We were just talking about that before you hit record, right? It is a journey and it's not an overnight process. And as long as you're willing to create change in your life and in your leadership style, then this is where it starts. Based on the experience of over 10 years of coaching and multiple years of leadership ourselves, we start with self. We start with leading yourself, understanding yourself. What are your triggers? How can you become more emotionally intelligent to be able to recognize that and to create some awareness on your own journey and on your own development, but also in what is preventing you from growing as a leader. So once you can understand yourself, then you can lead others. So it starts with leading yourself, then you move into leading others. How can you develop your team? Is a manager or a leader, like, can you be both? Can you be one or the other? Where do you stand? What are your skill set? What are your strengths? And once you are able to understand that, then you can help your team understand themselves better, recognize when, oh, this person, reacts in a certain way. Maybe there's a trigger there. If you walk through your own triggers, then you can understand others better. And then once you're able to do that, then you can co-create with your team because you're kind of all at a different level because you as a leader were able to bring them there.
Yep.
And once you can co-create and really use the togetherness of the team, then you can lead your organization at scale. And we know how the industrial world has changed tremendously just in the last 5 years. Like I'm not even counting the last 50 years because that's like even bigger, right? So if you can see what's coming, the challenges that are coming in the next 5 to 10 years for your organization, and you have worked through your own leadership, you have helped your team work through their own, dynamics and triggers and all of this, and you're able to lead them and use the togetherness, then you can move mountains. Then you can move the needle towards where it needs to be going, able to put yourself in a strategizing role rather than a reacting role of like putting out fires all the time. And then you can bring your organization to the future of work.
Excellent. Thank you, Genevieve. As you described that, it really answered the question, why this sequence, right? We've got to understand our triggers and what's holding us back before we can help others see that and understand that for themselves and really create the space where we can collectively co-create. Right. And then we're building those muscles, and then we can see how the leading the organization at scale would build on top of that. You
Yes.
said something really critical at the beginning about the willingness
Yeah.
to put ourselves on this journey. And I think that's really important, right? We've got to be
Mhm.
willing to be open to look to see. What else would you say about the willingness to
Yeah.
step into this journey?
Yeah, so this journey is a result of multiple years of individual coaching. And so we've noticed that if somebody is sent by the manager, go see, you need a coach. Like you need to do coaching. And so they don't come fully willing, and change can be created because it's like, it's our job as coaches, right? So if you pick a good coach, he's able to coach what we call the non-coachable, right? Like just to bring them on the journey, but it takes so much more time, right? Whereas if you have a leader that is willing, that is able to recognize that there's, development, his own development would benefit himself first or herself, and then the team, and then the organization. It's just results are so much faster to come, right? And then everything's more productive.
Yeah, you and I have felt that difference, right? And sometimes it's helping the individual get clear on what's important to them, what's at
Yeah.
stake, like what would doing this work enable? And
Mhm.
sometimes it's, helping them to see something they hadn't seen previously. Like,
Correct.
hey, do you notice how this might hold you back?
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely. So let's dig into development at level of self, leading ourselves.
Yes.
How might we start this work? Like, how do I begin to understand my
Mm.
triggers?
Right. So it comes with awareness, and what is in the work we do, what we allow is space. It's like this, let's say you have 1 hour of coaching, like you create this 1 hour that the client wouldn't have taken otherwise to look at how they do things, right? So, and then by creating the space, then awareness can come through powerful coaching questions. And then you can be aware of your own triggers. And what we say is, what does that mean, event triggers? And it's more like, how do you react in a situation that you feel emotions become stronger for yourself, right? So they must come from somewhere, and then maybe it doesn't belong to the situation. It belongs to a trigger that you would have in any given situation with any other person. So creating awareness around what does that mean for you? Where do you feel it in your body physically, right? So some people would have like a fast heartbeat or a tight throat, or getting like cold sweats. It could also be holding boundaries. Like, do you feel like it's hard for you to say no?
As a leader, you don't want to be the type of person that can be pushed over, right? You don't want to be the type of person where someone can come to you and say, my grandma died 7 times in 1 year and take 7 weeks off, right? You don't want to create that kind of an environment. So how do you create that delicate balance of how can I be an empathetic person and see these people as they are without actually giving up some sort of credibility that I have as a leader?
Yeah.
And what I would say is for any leader is if someone you're leading doesn't feel comfortable enough to have a conversation with you about their life, are you a leader or are you just a manager that someone's punching a clock for? Because leaders are people that actually lead people to be beyond what they could be without you. And that is such an important role of who they are. And it might not be specific mental health issues, but grief or challenges that they're having in their own life, upside down on their mortgage, whatever it is. People have so many stresses going into their daily life, and it's your job to get the best out of them that they possibly can. And not acknowledging those things is causing a detriment to your team and your ability to lead correctly.
Yeah. A couple of important distinctions I heard in what you just said, Pat, there. First of all, how can we be the empathic leader who still holds people accountable and is creating
Right.
that kind of environment? And then also, do you want to be a leader or do you
Mm.
want to be a manager?
Right.
Right. And a leader is working with folks about how do we create the conditions for success for you to achieve here
Mhm.
and get your work done well.
Yeah, and I think on top of that as well, there's great leaders have an ability to find more out of people than they even believe they had in themselves, right? I'm really obsessed with Nick Saban at the moment because he's retired and now he's the former head coach at Alabama because he's retired and now he's actually speaking without a media lens. And you get to really hear what his thoughts on leadership are. And this is a guy who is old school and hard on his kids, and these are college kids with all the pressure on the world on them. But all you hear from these players is how much he loved them and how much he was involved in their personal lives and their families. And he got to know their parents and the intimacies of what's going on in their personal life. And that was part of the sales pitch of getting these kids to come to Alabama. And so you can play that balance of, hey, when someone needs coaching, they need coaching. And I would say too, I've always, and I wonder if you feel the same way as well, someone who personally cares about me, a hard coaching note comes much easier that way, and I'm more inclined to listen to it because I know that this person has my best intention at heart. They want to see where my career is going. They want to see the goals that I have for myself and my family come through because they care about who I am as a human being. And so as a leader, it is your role, and you don't have to be best friends with these people, but you certainly need to show that you care.
Yes. Pat, I talk often about leaders will come to me, oh, I have a difficult message to deliver. How do I say it? What do I do? And they're looking for those mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And I often steer them in another direction. What are your beliefs? What are your intentions? What do you want for this person, this relationship, this conversation? And when, like you said, we can feel those good intentions from those around us. And we've all probably had the experience where someone seemingly said and did everything exactly right, but we're like, I don't quite buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Or we knew that they had our back. We knew that they were on our side. And then we forgive them, not quite saying it right or, ooh, okay, but I know where she's coming from.
Exactly. 100%. And it's funny how, as a leader, we're no different than like a teacher in a classroom with kids. And kids truly understand when a teacher, you remember as a kid when your teacher was honest or not honest. And your employees or the people working for you or the people that you're leading, they know your intentions when you're saying what you're saying. So if being honest and upfront about what you have to say and what the intention is, it gives you a world of clearance of messing up and saying the wrong thing, because it's never the wrong thing if it's the right intention.
I want to ask you, Mary Lynn, about the balancing act that I think that this requires, because we want to say, oh, this was some frustrating news, or this is some news we need to react to, or, I know that this is bringing up emotions and concerns in me, knowledge it might be in all of you as well, acknowledging that, showing some vulnerability, yet also needing to be the person that demonstrates confidence, right? And is outlining the path forward for folks. What would you say about striking that right balance?
Well, first of all, I would say it is an art, not a science. There is no one size fits all. And this is where showing your authenticity, your humanity is going to weigh into the equation and your unique formula for that balancing act. You describe it as a balancing act, and that's exactly what it is. For some of us, it includes first going to our personal board of directors or our inner circle to vent, to air our frustrations, to admit our concerns, and
Mhm.
to kind of play out various scenarios so that we're not reacting in the moment and maybe just showing any trepidation with regard to facing the future. So whatever technique works, some people do that in solitude. They walk or they run like you, right? They meditate, they
Yes.
hike, they do yoga. Others do it through talking. Like I'm a very vocal, I process through sharing. And
Yep.
so some of us share. I have some colleagues who stay away from the news. Like consuming the news becomes paralyzing for them
Yes.
because they're just consumed with worry. I'm a bit of a news junkie, but
Okay.
I try to moderate that with not taking in too much of it or getting too wrapped up in the details, but having a general finger on the pulse of what's happening as it relates to unemployment, tariffs, economic trends, how it's impacting our member organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing about the way I'm approaching this question that you've asked is my way is not going to be your way.
Ah,
Your way is not going to be my way. There
yeah.
is no right way, but to take the sting out of this constant cycle of, oh
Yes.
my, oh dear, oh Lord, oh gosh, how are
Yes.
we ever going to get through this? Is, doing something as a leader or some set of things that work for you individually to help you then be able to come to your team with
Mm-hmm.
confidence. And I'm going to put humility in there again.
Mm-hmm.
Humility that you don't have all the answers and or that we've never been through this before, or this set of circumstances surely is unique, extra challenging, confident that we'll get through it. So I was in a chat with a number of association CEOs recently, and we came to the conclusion that the current situation we're in is an odd hybrid blend of the last big recession and the pandemic
Yeah.
together, right?
Yes.
Some sort of hybrid of that where we're all going through a really tough time together.
Yeah.
We're all facing similar challenges, but that have specific consequences depending on the markets we serve, the stability of our
Mhm.
organization, the team we have around us, the expectations of our board.
Yeah.
And it's taking the experience that we gained if we were leading through those two time periods
Yeah.
to those are helping inform and know that this too shall pass.
Yeah.
We will get through this. We do have the stamina. We do have the wherewithal. We do have,
Yeah.
enough tools in our belt to survive and thrive
Yeah.
through this. And at the hopefully end of this roller coaster we're on right now.
Yeah, the challenge is real. And we have tangible lessons learned from the previous spaces that we've navigated. You also talked about seeing the whole person.
Yeah.
And so we've got to accept that someone in the millennial or the Gen Z generation might be asking, how can I have your job in 5 years, right? And accepting that that is part of who they are and what they're thinking of and what drives them, right? Accepting that whole person.
And Sabona, it means I see you. I see and accept. Because what we found, Amy, is when we see and accept people for who they are, they see and accept us for who we are. And a different conversation unfolds, not one where we're lecturing to each other with our right, wrong judgments, but one where we're listening and learning from each other with openness and curiosity.
Yeah.
And so this is what millennials and Gen Zs want. They want to be accepted for the whole of who they are, their gifts, their blind spots, their strengths, their weaknesses, their genius. And this is why Salbona, they gravitate towards Salbona. It's not just because it was born out of the millennial generation, but it closely aligns with their values and their needs. And it's interesting, in having done a lot of speaking at conferences, I have a lot of millennials approach me and they tell me their needs, but there are 3 needs that keep echoing.
Okay.
And that's to feel heard, to use their gifts, and to have meaning and purpose in their lives. But what's interesting, when I'm speaking to a group of leaders of all different generations, and I ask them, is this something that you want too? Every hand goes up.
Yeah.
Because it's not a generational need, it's a human need.
Yes.
This is what we all want.
Yes.
And so the way that we enter through Salbona, in order for someone to feel heard, you have to connect and receive. In order for a person to use their gifts, you have to, as a leader, see their gifts. In order for a person to have meaning and purpose in their lives, you have to create a culture where they feel a part of something greater than themselves. And what we do is the journey to this is through what we call the 5 Salbona leaderships. These are the shifts that are so important that leaders make today to be the kind of leaders that thrive in the 21st century, especially because millennial generation right now, they are becoming in management roles.
Yeah.
Senior management roles, VP roles, because the age of millennials are anywhere from 29 to 44. So these 5 leaderships become really, really important that leaders transition to. So the first one is from control to connect and receive. There's a connection.
Yeah.
The second one is from conformity to see and accept. Third one is from expectations to intentions. The fourth one is from authority to authenticity. And the fifth one is from bottom line myopia to belonging. And so if we look at the first one, from control to connect and receive, we have been trying to slowly move away from command and control, which does not work on the younger generation. And it really didn't work on my generation, but we just sucked it up and we did it anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We felt like we had to deal with it. Yep.
Right, exactly. So we have to transition from control to connect and receive. And connection is not communication or connectivity. It's how I feel when I'm with you.